have Deven Choksey who joins us of KRChoksey. Good morning, Deven. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, Deven, let's address a couple of stocks though. Though the SGX Nifty suggesting that we're going to open up in the green. Just a couple of them, as per news flow, should start in the red. That's City Union Bank, one of them. They released a report late last evening, and they said that, in fact, there's going to be some divergence, which is a little bit of a worry. What's your view on the stock or on the banking space?
So, good morning, Nigel. In general, I think the banking space to me looks, extremely convincing. And within that, I think the corporate banks and the strong NBFCs, which are retail focused, housing finance focused, I think are the ones which looks, very convincing to me. I'm less convinced about the prospects of the public sector banks, though they are available at a valuation which are comparatively cheap. But the fact remains that I think the growth engine is still lying with, the other stronger entities which are there in the universe. So from that perspective, either you look at the corporate lending growth, you look at the retail lending growth, or you look at, housing finance lending growth. I think some of these areas where probably we are seeing 18 to 20% kind of a growth happening. The beneficiaries would be the banks which have got the ability to reach out to the customers effectively. Beneficiaries would be the banks which are having the loan book to offer to the customers, or the size of the loan book to offer to the customers. So I think the focus would remain with the larger banks. Focus would remain with the banks which have got technology in the front end and also in the back end to process loans. I think this is where I think we would probably remain more focused vis-a-vis the smaller banks at this point of time.
Deven, last 2 days, when the market is pulled back from the lows strongly, one common theme has been Reliance. It's also, by the way, I was looking at some charts. Technically, also, it's interestingly poised. Your thoughts, Deven? RIL, near-term catalysts, if any, and how do you see it play out?
Yeah, Prashant. Good morning. Well, I believe that I think in case of Reliance, the fundamentals are always intact. And in my viewpoint, I think each of the verticals, the consumer-facing verticals in Geo as well as in retail, and the industrial verticals in form of the refining business and the petrochemical polymer business. Each of these verticals have, I think, indeed a great amount of growth to offer. Whatever little negatives, I think, due to the crude oil prices were there in the second quarter, I think the third quarter has been by and large extremely positive. So one is expecting the steady set of margin both in the petrochemical polymer segment as well as I think in the refining segment in this particular quarter, which is a large chunk of business, close to around 55% contribution comes out of these two verticals. And the other two verticals, the Geo platform and the retail platform particularly, I think both of them are offering a great amount of traction from growth point of view. In fact, I think in case of Geo, the realization per customer, I think, is definitely improving, and that is what is going to contribute significantly to the growth in this particular quarter, as well as end of the year in the next quarter. So I think any correction in the stock price because of any technical reason which Reliance has experienced, it always becomes a buy opportunity. And in my viewpoint, I think the stock is ready to go to the levels of 3,200, 3,300 in a couple of quarters from now. So that is where I think one could keep an eye on from investing perspective.
Wow, that's a big upside. 32 to 3,300 is your expectation in Reliance over the next couple of quarters. It's at 2,600 right now. So that's perhaps one of the big stocks you're betting on in the new year.